I shouldn't say this, but this reminds me of a class, like everyone's sitting in the back and no one's sitting up front, but that's okay. We're going to get started, and let me give an introduction, and then we'll get underway because we're on a fairly tight sort of time schedule. So welcome to tonight's debate, co-hosted by Student Senate, Director of Student Senate. We really appreciate you asking me to moderate. I appreciate your deeply. Ohio University seeks to provide opportunities for learning and free exchange of ideas, including events such as this one. In keeping with this goal, an opportunity for question and answer with the speaker will follow today's formal presentation. And in the interest of ensuring an orderly event, audience members are asked to refrain from engaging in conduct that could disrupt the event. Anyone engaged in disruptive behavior will be subject to removal. We will begin with the mayoral candidates, Steve Patterson and David Crane, we'll start with a few prepared questions, and then we'll open up the floor to the audience and Twitter questions using the hashtag #AthensDebate. And due to time constraints, we will have certain time limits that Maddie will be handling, and right over there for our candidates. And time limits for tonight are as follows. There'll be introductions, 2 minutes, answers 1 minute, direct responses 30 seconds, and 1 direct response per person per question. And so without further ado, we will begin. And I will start with, please give an introduction, an opening statement regarding why students should vote for you. Please include where you live, why you live there, and your favorite place to spend time in Athens. Do we have a preference to do a coin toss for going first? Maybe we need to do that, or either care, or coin toss. All right, who would like to start? Would you like to start?
Oh, we're not going to coin toss? Sure, I can start. I'm sorry, I didn't get the extra details you wanted to include.
Okay, please, in your opening statement, regarding why students should vote for you, please include where you live, why you live there, and your favorite place to spend time in. So where you live, why you've chosen to live where you live, and where you like to spend time.
All right, well, my name is David Crane. I live on Hudson Avenue in Athens. It's a spot that's nice because it's close to like path and a lovely park, as well as the community center. I like to hang out lots of different places in Athens. It's kind of like town. Time short, so I'm going to jump right into this. My opponent likes to say he's everyone's mayor, but that's not true. This election is a fight between 2 very different visions of what Athens should be, and it's clear which side each of us is on. In 2015, no one donated more to Patterson's campaign than John Gordon, who was voted worst landlord in Athens every single year the Athens News polled its readers. Demetrius Prokos, who consistently placed second in the worst landlord category, also backs Patterson, as does Trump supporting mega landlord Alan Miller, who recently opened his mansion to host a gala for Patterson. And Pete Kalaidis, who's chair of the Athens County Republican Party, from Bush's illegal wars and torture programs to Trump's racist concentration camps, is also backing Patterson. Patterson told the Post that Republicans don't run against him because he's already the mayor they want. That's because he uses government to transfer wealth from poorer people to richer people. He works to eliminate union jobs, pushes corporatization and gentrification, denies we even have a slum housing crisis. And it was under Patterson's watch that Athens police carried out the 2nd largest mass arrest of students in the UU's 215-year history for wrongful arrests of over 70 who were protesting Trump's racist travel ban. So folks, I give you the Republican candidate for mayor, Democrat Steve Patterson. My opponent showed himself to be the mayor of slumlords and unconstitutional speech restrictions and union busting and gentrification. education, embraces the laws of police, and he's the darling of the wealthy and the right wing. He's not out to be everyone's mayor, and neither am I. I'm out to be the mayor of students and workers and tenants and women and people of color and LGBT folks and environmentalists and everyone who believes in a more just, equitable, and truly democratic Athens. But don't take my word for it. Visit my website or just Google me to check my 24-year record of grassroots social justice organizing. I've been fighting people like Mayor Patterson for quite a while now, and together we can defeat him to win the Athens we deserve.
Thank you. Well, thank you for moderating. I appreciate that. Thank you to the Student Senate for hosting this, Graduate Student Senate, and for all those of you who came here today. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. When I came here to Athens in 1998 and was teaching at OU, I lived by one simple credo, and that is, I have an open door policy. When my office is open and someone's walking by and want to knock on the door, I would always welcome them in and sit and engage with them. I did that all the way through my graduate program when I was teaching. I did it as a postdoc. I did it at the University of Tennessee College of Medicine in Memphis. I've done it everywhere I've been because it's the right thing to do. As mayor, that has translated into my position as mayor. Rarely will you come up to the city building and see my office closed unless there's something really serious going on. And then it is randomly closed, but not very often. And I throw that out to all of you because I am an engager. I'm someone who likes to listen. I was sitting there asking earlier how many times this year, and this isn't a diss on anybody, but how many times this year Student Senate has had the opportunity in their General Assembly to engage with the president of the university. And I can proudly say I have met with that body more times than the president has. Again, that's not just because the president. It's just my level, a representation of my level of engaging. A couple things that I think are vitally important this meeting is that some of the big issues that affect the student body directly. One is something that I fought hard for and was recently endorsed by the Planned Parenthood of Greater Ohio, and that is for safe, confidential, and accessible reproductive health care. Planned Parenthood knows how hard I've worked on that and recognized me with their vote of confidence. The other is the National Association of Social Workers, which endorsed me, gave me their vote of confidence for my work on going to Washington, D.C. and fighting for DACA, fighting for the Dreamers Act, and to try to repeal these silly travel bans, because that affects our own community, especially when it comes to international students wanting to go to school here or going to school here, only to sit there and worry about going back to their home of origin because they may not be able to get back in this country again. That's the kind of things that I'm fighting for, and that's affecting you, and hopefully you think that I'm doing the right job by doing that.
Okay, question number 2. How will you navigate and strengthen the relationship between the Athens community, the city of Athens, and the Ohio University student body? And I'm going to have us take turns now going first. And so Steve, you get to go first for this. How will you navigate and strengthen the relationship between the Athens community and the city of Athens and the Ohio University student body?
That's a great question. You know, one of the ways we do it now, and we haven't faltered on this at all, is by using our ever-growing, it seems, boards and commissions that we have. We have things like the Joint Police Advisory Council, which is very effective for bringing together 10 entities, 10 people from the Ohio University community, 10 individuals from the city community, and coming together and talking about various issues when it comes to safety, when it comes to policing, when it comes to a number of different things. So our boards and commissions, another one is the Community Relations Committee, which the Community Relations Committee is vitally important to us when different issues flare up in the city and we need to get everyone to come together at the table and start talking through to ways we can find solutions to problems. And the other thing, as I already mentioned, is, again, my ability to get in bed with all of you, to engage with all of you. You know, I get out and about, and so often, what should normally take me maybe 10 minutes to walk from the city building to Baker Center, typically takes me a half hour now because I'm stopping and talking with people along the way or encouraging them to come out and help pull weeds out of some of the city sidewalks and engaging. But that also holds true with, unfortunately we didn't have one this year, but with the Athens Beautification Project. That is ways in which we all come together, a large number of Ohio University students, And we work on civic projects together. It's only one day, but I would like to amp that up to where we're doing that once a month, you know, where we're coming together and doing cool projects. It also helps the student body to kind of get out of your own comfort zone and embed yourself within the community, or better yet, within the whole county. There's a number of things. I can go on and on.
Damon?
So OU students make up about 80% of Athens City residents. The first thing I would do is make a decisive break with my opponent's administration and stop using city police to help the university enforce unconstitutional speech restrictions, which remain in place even after the arrest of the Baker 70. The other thing that I would do is start doing right by students when it comes to enforcing the housing code and cracking down on predatory slumlords. The centerpiece of my platform's Operation Slumlord Smackdown. It's a lot of things, but here's the four main points. It would double the number of rental housing inspectors so we can actually enforce the housing code. It would strengthen the code itself and crack down on slumlords who steal security deposits and violate tenant privacy. It would put repeat offender slumlords out of business, and it would include reasonable insulation and weatherization requirements. It would improve public health, reduce tenant utility bills, and greatly shrink our city's carbon footprint. 3, it would enable tenants to make informed housing decisions by compiling all housing code enforcement court records into a free, easily searchable online database, or better or worse, before you sign a lease. It would also institute a rent freeze while properties are brought up to code, followed by ongoing rent control, so that when slumlords are forced to bring their properties up to code, they don't pass the costs on to you in the form of rent hikes. So that's, I would say, a key student issue that has been neglected, and I would change that.
Thank you. Direct response?
I don't know if a direct response to something I failed to mention in my intro. That's my favorite place that makes this so special, and that is you, all of you. Everything is where I live. I live at 50 Longview Heights. I've lived there for several years. Before that, I lived on 20 Camp Carey. And I'm sure how to do. One last thing I'd like to do, I have only 30 seconds. That's my cell phone number. Please jot that down, because that's how engagable I am and how much I'm willing to reach out. That's myself.
Thank you. Damon, direct response?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Mayor Patterson's comments about being so open to meeting one-on-one. Unfortunately, that's just a classic anti-democratic management strategy. It's divide and conquer masquerading as friendly responsiveness. Here's how it works. The mayor will often meet with you one-on-one, and wow, doesn't that make you feel special? But if you're intimidated by that prospect where you can't fit into his schedule, well, that's on you. The mayor did his part, right? And if you do meet with the mayor, nobody else knows what goes on behind closed doors. The mayors can't be held publicly accountable for anything he tells you, so they can be held accountable. I mean, why are we even having a public debate tonight where the media can cover it when you can just get coffee between your seats sometimes?
Thank you. All right, question number 3. What are your ideas to address landlord tenant issues in the Athens community? And David, you get to go first on this question.
Well, I mean, let's start with code enforcement. Right now, we have 3 rental housing inspectors that perform 8,000 to 10,000 inspections per year, while a 4th inspector does office work. Code enforcement's own annual report says that this understaffing makes their office a complaint-driven agency. That means in order to have time to respond to tenant complaints, the regular inspections are kept so short and superficial that they're almost useless. Inspectors are in and out in 90 seconds, only pressing test buttons on smoke detectors. Meanwhile, most tenants are inexperienced first or second time renters in their early 20s, facing off against the same wealthy and well-practiced slumlords who act like home. Therefore, most violations never get reported even, and when violations are identified, it takes far too long for them to get fixed. Take the Carriage Hill Apartments, which rebranded the Campus Heights after the landlord's negligence almost cost 41 tenants their lives on my phone's watch. On January 30th, 2017, code enforcement cited the landlord for multiple faulty smoke detectors and at least 1 expired fire extinguisher. The code didn't schedule its follow-up inspection until nearly a month later, on February 27th, and in the meantime, the place burned down. So we need to start by actually enforcing our city housing code and ensuring the safety of 80% of the things who rent.
Next part. What are your ideas to address landlord tenant issues in the office?
Well, one of them is something that council approved from a suggestion and actually a recommendation from the law director and that is to have a different fine structure and possible jail time for someone who's an absentee landlord who's not taking care of property, because the law director was finding that a $100 fine was something that a landlord could just absorb and not deal with. That has changed as we move forward. The other thing that I think everybody should track is with the decrease in the Ohio University student enrollment, for sundry of reasons. It's nationwide. We're seeing decreases because graduating classes are getting smaller and it's much more competitive. But to that end, one of the things I think we're going to start seeing is a lot of what are otherwise, what were single family homes converted into rental units. We're going to start seeing those, I think, reverting back to single family homes again, which is desperately needed. So what might be construed as a ill-maintained rental unit may likely turn into a single family home.
Yes, thank you. Steve, would you like to respond to David? Direct response? Or Deborah?
Yeah, you got it.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's just not true. City council voted unanimously to increase fines for repeat offender landlords after Ellie Hammer and I campaigned on Operation Slumber's back down for 6 months. And the Athens News was in the process of writing an article on these issues that the mayor and law director Eliason knew was going to be very embarrassing for them. One of the reasons law director Eliason knew it would be embarrassing for her is because in violation of our city housing code, which says that each day of each uncorrected offense is a complete and separate criminal offense for which a landlord is to be charged a minor misdemeanor at $500. Eliason has always grouped that as a single offense, no matter how many violations or how long they last. So what does it mean for city council to increase penalties for multiple violations if the law director believes there's never any such thing as multiple violations?
Direct response? Okay, very good. All right. This ends this ends the first part of our first 3 questions, and we will now begin audience questions for the night. And Ramin will call on anyone who wants to ask candidate questions. And be sure to board, you can join the conversation with the hashtag #AskSurvey on Twitter.
Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks for the Q. And so I will open for the audience. Yes, please.
To create a level playing field and a fair playing field, I would ask that this question be answered based upon the future, not the present, not the past. It's what do you, every one of you, on the first day of your office, your term in office, intend to do to reduce Athens' carbon footprint, and to bring Athens to the forefront of environmental concern and global warming concern, as opposed to be just another tag along, such as any other mid-Ohio Valley city. And would the city of Athens stall some of its projects currently on the books that they're preparing to put revenue towards, or any future pie-in-the-sky ideas, and stick with just maintaining the city's need and reducing the carbon footprint by reducing renters or owners or making opportunities available for people to conserve energy and participate wholly and fully?
Similarly to the rest of the motion. Do you respond?
So we live in a world where 71% of greenhouse gas emissions since 1988 have come from 100 different companies. There is no way to address our climate crisis without confronting the rich and powerful. I am all for increasing the city's use of renewable energy, but the elephant in the room is all of this energy inefficient old rental housing stock that we currently don't require in order to properly weatherize. And why would they invest money in that? They're not the ones paying the devastatingly high utility bills. Their tenants are. So I think that there's some stuff that my opponent has done that I would do too, but I feel like our Congressman is only an environmentalist until it gets to the point of needing to challenge the wealthy landlords who support him, and then he's not an environmentalist anymore. If we institute some reasonable installation and weatherization requirements, that is the biggest single thing I believe we can do to shrink the city's carbon footprint.
Great question, Mr. Swearengin. One of the things, so you're saying 2020, January 1, 2020, what will happen January 1, 2020 is the carbon fee will kick in and we'll start generating revenue. The carbon fee that was passed by 76% of the voting body here in Athens, to where,
Students.
that money can now be used, starting collection in 2020, to have municipal solar on all of our buildings, but it's gonna take time for that to build up. One of the things that we will continue to do is what we did at the wastewater treatment, or the water treatment plant, which now has a solar array that has significantly cut down on our fossil fuel use, i.e. our electric bill, to where we have solar behind the meter, because we're looking to future renovation of the wastewater treatment plant or some additions to that, putting solar down there at the wastewater treatment plant. Our two biggest consumers, water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and the third one being the community center. Community center has a great roof that faces, in the proper direction to where we could put through this carbon fee, build out solar on that building itself and start to capture. Again, we've already seen significant savings, which is significant savings to the taxpayer dollars, because we're not paying as much on the electric and the water treatment plant. We see that as a huge positive for being good stewards of our planet and reducing our carbon footprint. The other thing is that when I took office, the city of Athens had 0 electric vehicles that are in our fleet. We now have 3 in the code department because those are probably the most heavily used vehicles. I would contend that we probably have the largest EV fleet for a municipality in Southeast Ohio. Fact check that, but I don't know any of my colleagues that sit there and say, we have electric vehicles in our fleet too, at least to the extent that we do. And by design, as we have cars like that within our fleet that need to be retired, that are old Impalas, that are old Crown Vics, I will do EV vehicles all day long.
Clarify, man.
Yes.
Everything that has been said on this side of the table is what's already existing, not future tense. It's what we carried on no matter which of the two you become mayor. It's already on the books. Just looking for something innovative and new, because the climate crisis is something that is time critical.
Thank you for
It can't just be business as usual.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. Is there anything you'd like to add? Okay, is there any other question from the audience? Yes.
How are we going to address the lack of broadband access in the city and surrounding areas?
I happily answer that first. That's something that I've been working on for quite a while, and something that all of you can really be helpful with to paint an even bigger picture is download an app. Just go to, whatever your app store is, download Test, and then capital I, capital T, Test IT. What that'll do is anywhere you are within our area, even wherever you're from, it's your home, it'll work there too. You sit there and you press a button and it'll compare what the broadband delivery is at any site that you're at. It'll put a pin there and it'll tell you, what your download speed is, which FCC's download rule is, what the standard is 25 down, 3 up. I have been in so many places in Southeast Ohio where it's next to 0 down, if not 0 down enough. So what I'm doing, that's one thing, is painting the correct map that I can take back to the FCC and go, don't tell me, because in one census block, we have one person that has broadband that is a proper speed, whatever that is, to that site, that entire census block now has coverage, because that's not true.
Yeah, so actually internet access is not a luxury, it's a necessity to fully participate in our society. I think that while Chattanooga, Tennessee is a larger city to us, I think that their success in municipal broadband is really something that we should study and look at how we might be able to do something similar in Athens, though granted we are a much smaller city with fewer resources, and then how can we support other cities in Athens County, Nelsonville, smaller places like Chansey, to really enable people to access things or participate in society.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, that response.
Look, just for a second. The criticality of this is that, I look at kids who go to school here in Southeastern Ohio, in Athens County, and they are automatically at a disadvantage when it comes to broadband, to where when they go on to college, they're sitting side by side with someone next to someone who's probably learned to operate in the gig world. Wrap your heads around what it would be like to get a gig down and who cares what up. But to that point, that's the other group that I am fighting hard for is our children who are being automatically disadvantaged if you live in an area that is either internet absent, internet desert, or it has inadequate broadband delivery, where you're sitting there operating at speeds that you get go next door to door, shoulder to shoulder next to a student who knows how to operate in that world, and you're automatically at a disadvantage in education.
Thank you. What factors other than what you've already stated make either of you qualified to be mayor?
Want me to go first? Okay. So, I come at this a little differently than a lot of elected officials in Athens. My primary political experience comes from about 2,000 years of grassroots community organizing. Kind of what I've been doing my whole adult life has been helping ordinarily disempowered people come together to advance their own interests in opposition to powerful institutions and individuals. That's included everything from helping area high school students organize and produce their own independent publications in opposition to censorship of school officials. It's included exposing OU for violating the Clery Act to try to sweep campus sexual assault under the rug, and forcing OU both into compliance with the Clery Act and helping create the Campus Women's Center. It's included resisting Bashar wars on Iraq and Afghanistan. It's included organizing TENS. It's included organizing small business owners, food vendors, and the Campus Planning Association. It's included a great deal of work with Aspen on faith. How can ordinarily disempowered people come together to achieve more just, democratic, and equitable conditions? That's the mindset I would bring to being the next mayor of Athens.
Sort of one qualification.
There's qualifications. There's multiple qualifications. I think my military experience, being a retired military veteran, both as enlisted members of the following orders, to being a retired major with the Air National Guard is one thing. My experience with Ohio University and understanding community, which I would contend is at an all-time high. I have to give a lot of thank you to President Isley and her vision and leadership with City Council and yours, Councilmember McGee. Is being able to go, but at the end of the day, it's who I am as a community builder. I operate at the state level, I operate at the federal level, but most importantly, I operate at this level, and being able to complete that entire bandwidth of engagement. That's what a true leader does in terms of being able to not only operate within my own box, within our own community, but be able to garner partnerships and resources at the federal and state level, which makes our community better.
We have also hashtag, and we've been receiving some questions too, the questions first.
Yeah. So how will you work toward ensuring instances of bigotry and hatred, such as the sale of Confederate flag merchandise at the Athens Fair, are stopped?
We both work on this. It's kind of concept. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Sure. Reaching out to the farmers, the Farm Bureau Board, the county fair, and initially reaching out saying, "What are you doing? This just plain and simple is not cool. Not only is it not cool for our community here in Athens, at Ohio University, and the student body, have stuff like that take place is sending a message that is just not only wrong. It's to me, I view that as racism. It's like, why are you doing this? So we've been engaging with them. I know that a number of social workers here in the city have been reaching out and engaging with them, asking them to cease and desist. They're already at the state fair. The state fair board rules this as offensive language, and they have pulled that out. We're trying to insert that here as well, because it's just, it's not who we are as a community. It's just not.
So after American white supremacists lost the Civil War, they stopped trying to break off and they started trying to mainstream themselves. And the Confederate flag was an important way to do this. What they tried to do was market to rural white Americans who didn't know any better because they were isolated from people of color, to market the Confederate flag as some generalized symbol of rebellion and freedom and rural identity. So it shrouded a symbol of overt racism in this fog of plausible deniability. And so if you grew up in the country like I did, from the 80s wearing like a Dukes of Hazzard t-shirt, that's what the Confederate flag was. It takes some time to figure out, no, it's an insidious symbol of promoting a white supremacist agenda. And so on August 22nd, the way that I tried to contribute to this debate was talking about how, as a rural person who's on the other side of the Ohio River growing up there, you know, I came to that realization and did the research that I did because, again, like, this gets muddied in sort of culture war and class conflict issues where if you just have a bunch of affluent liberal transplants to the city of Athens telling rural people that they need to act differently, that's not the best way to go about it. You can speak to those people's experiences and get them to get rid of the Confederate flag on their own. I think you should get rid of it regardless, but let's say they should try that first.
So we take one more question.
Yeah.
on the hashtag.
In your opinion, which community, example, east side, west side, or south side in Athens, needs to see the most improvements, and are there any areas of concern?
Second. Well, you know, I think the lower income areas of the community have been the most neglected. You know, I mean, and the west side, because it's sort of, I think, the largest relatively low income section of town, you can see that the most. You can see all the sidewalks that the city doesn't personally roads. You can see how dangerous that is for anybody trying to traverse that part of town, how inaccessible it makes that area of town to a lot of people with disabilities. But, you know, you can see a lot of the same things in any predominantly red or predominantly lower income sections of town. You know, the squeaky wheel against the oil, and unfortunately, our city government's been more people to higher income residents.
Big question.
Yeah.
Just which neighborhood?
Just in your opinion, east side, west side, south side, just some examples in Athens needs to see the most improvement, and are there any areas of concern?
I would say that, you know, certainly the west side needs a lot of improvement. Again, I think what we're gonna end up seeing in the near future is a lot of rental units or single family homes now either sitting fallow or possibly on the market. And I would not be opposed to seeing that, where it's being opened up for renovation for, you know, single family homes to move back into these. I think there's ways in which the city can give assistance to renovations, and home improvements to some of these. You know, another area that I know needs help, and I think that we're really, really close, is the uptown area to itself. You know, you only get one first impression, right? And one of the things when parents are bringing students here to come and see if this is the place to bring their kids, and they're walking up Court Street, a lot of times it's, you know, all the gum on the sidewalks and other things, trash, whatever. We've done a great job, I think, of starting to turn that ship around. I think the special improvement district is really close to happening, to where now property owners want to invest to beautify Court Street. My university has agreed to be a partner in this, as has the city, to make this happen. I think that's another area that needs a lot of attention, but I think we're really close. And I think it already looks better than when I took office, but we'll continue pushing forward with some of the bigger endeavors on Court Street.
And we have one more question before we go to closing statements, or should I just go to closing statements?
Is there like one burning question from the audience?
Okay.
We can take one more.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so given the recent issues with civic engagement, which is of course a cornerstone of our democracy, there have been a lot of incidents that challenge that and just disenfranchise voters, especially among the youth. So my question is, if elected or re-elected, how would you respond to another incident such as the arrest of the Baker Center?
Let's go first.
I mean, the Bakers have, you know, were not only arrested with APD participating, but they were prosecuted on false charges by the city law department. And the city law department that will start at the bare minimum when it comes to prosecuting slumlords are actually miles below the bare minimum. Also pressured 15 of those arrested into pleading down to convictions on charges that were lesser, but equally false before the original charges ended up being thrown out in court. That is absolutely the wrong approach to take. Obviously, city government should be protecting the rights of citizens, not violating them. But in general, you know, we have all these problems because we have an extremely undemocratic situation in Athens. You know, the ugly truth of Athens city politics is that most of the time nobody's votes matter, And all of the time, most people's votes don't matter. That's because we have one party control, and the party usually just picks one person to run for each office. If I wasn't running against Mayor Patterson this year, he'd be Mayor Patterson for at least 8 years without ever having once won a competitive Democratic election for that office. Also, when we do have competitive elections, they get decided in the Democratic primary when everybody runs as a Democrat. That happens after students leave town, therefore most of the Indians aren't even here to vote. So that's why I run as an independent, to try to actually expand our local democracy by having a competitive election in November when everybody's actually here to vote. If we actually empower students, renters, workers, we will see a radically different approach to city governance.
So, I think that there could certainly be policy changes. I mean, what happened at Baker Center was a policy decision, policy driven in terms of, gathering, meeting spaces and so on and so forth. But I think there's always room to review, learn from challenges, learn from mistakes, and review policy and rewrite policy. I feel the same way about city laws. We're constantly looking at laws that are either antiquated or don't read clearly, like in some cases, or sometimes are just wrong. We can certainly rewrite those and get it before council to see if council decides that it should change as well. But the most important thing is, so often we always feel like I feel the same, when I'm in the ballot box or in the ballot at the voting station, I'm filling it out, especially on the national stage, and if it's a national election, I sit there and go, is my vote really going to count at the end of the day? The bottom line is yes, it does. If nothing else, you're getting your opinion out there on that piece of paper and getting it in, and you're part of democracy. That is part of how this nation was founded, so that's my 2 cents on it.
And so move to,
Can I have a response to that, please? Yeah, so the rest of the Baker 70 was not a policy-driven decision. That's why when we tried to create a blanket ban on indoor demonstrations afterwards, because they didn't have a policy to justify it. That ban was blatantly unconstitutional and eventually came back. But what remains in place is a ban on demonstrations in the 4th floor rotunda. That is equally unconstitutional. The way this stuff works, based on First Amendment case law, is that public universities, as government institutions, have the right to place constraints on the time, place, and manner of student speech if doing so is necessary to prevent a major disruption of ordinary school proceedings or to prevent the rights of bystanders. None of these actions or policies are justifiable based on that. That's why the charges against the Baker 70 were thrown out, and it's why the city should be working to pressure the youth to repeal its lasting unconstitutional speech restriction.
okay. Okay, thank you for all the questions on the floor, thank you for questions from the hashtag. I have one more question, and then we'll go to the closing statement. What do you admire most about your opponent? Okay, go first. What do you admire most about your opponent?
Oh, I guess I would say his willingness to run a small business. He was a food truck because running a small business is not easy for small business owners. Small businesses is a lot of what the city was built on, where things started from, and I know in all my local conversations with small business owners that, again, it's a challenge every day to see if you can cover your overhead, to see if you can drive the customers to whatever your business is. But again, I admire that I did that too for a short while with my sustainable organic farming with my wonderful wife who's sitting here today, Connie Patterson. We were growing peppers and hops, and literally made zero money off it because our hops were given to Jackie. Those we didn't sell them. It was like, here, put this in your beer, which was really pretty cool. Peppers is a hard business to try.
Okay, David, what do you admire most about your opponent?
He's a much snappier dresser than me. But honestly, and I'm sorry, I've got to reply to the small business thing. I mean, Mayor Patterson has been an opponent of expanding access for local vendors. When Mayor Patterson was on city council, he wrote the ordinance that cut reservable vending time on Main Street by 65% of the previous level. I'm sorry that I don't seem more amicable with the relationship between us, but this is a problem. We're at a time where commercial landlords, landlords aren't just gouging residents, they're also gouging potential small business owners. So the reason we're seeing all these vacant storefronts left open for so long in town is because commercial landlords are pricing would-be independent local operators out of the market for brick-and-mortar restaurant space. At the same time, city government is making it harder for those folks to enter the market through open lending.
That was a direct response. You want to answer the question?
Oh,
That was more of a direct response to
Yeah.
what you said. What do you admire most about your home?
I mentioned the snappy dressing.
Okay. Steve, would you like this? No? Okay. All right. Please give a closing statement and reflect on why you feel you are the best persons in this position and why students should vote for you. And maybe you get to go first.
I actually didn't know from the format that was sent out that we would be doing closing statements, so I think I'll pick one of the things I didn't get a chance to talk about. And I think I'll talk about rent control, which has turned out to be a kind of defining issue that separates the three new independent candidates who are all working class tenants themselves from all of the incumbents and the new Democratic candidate, Beth Clodfelter. We are all in favor of rent control, whereas the latter folks are all opposed to it. Now, for longer than we've been alive, Athens city government has been the slumlord's best friend. Decade after decade, city officials like Patterson have refused to adequately enforce our housing code. So for all that time, the money that slumlords should have been investing in property maintenance, they've instead been pocketing as additional profit as rental units have become more and more run down. So if Ellie, Chris, and I get elected, and we get city government to finally start doing right by the 80% of the cities who rent, it's going to cost a whole lot of money to bring all these run-down, unsafe rental units up to code. And who's going to pay that money? Landlords. We absolutely cannot allow slumlords to pass the costs of their own negligence and predatory profiteering onto their current tenants through rent hikes. And the only way to stop slumlords from doing that is to freeze rent while we bring these properties up to code, and then follow that with ongoing rent control. And rent control is just something that progressives unanimously support. Oregon and California just passed statewide laws. Bernie Sanders has put forward a national plan. But rent control is opposed by all incumbent Athens office holders and new Democratic candidate Beth Clodfelter. That's because these people aren't conservative or aren't progressives. They're closet conservatives like
Again, I would want to thank you
Thank you.
for moderating this event. I want to thank Student Senate once again for putting this on, along with Graduate Student Senate. Thank you all. This is great. I love doing forums, all types. I want to thank Patty for being such a wonderful timer, as well as an intern in my office, which is something that I do with intent. Again, the ways in which I'm reaching out and making sure that we are connected by offering through experiential learning in the city of Athens, internships throughout, the whole city, whether it's an internship at the Engineering and Public Works Department, possibly interning at Arts, Parks, and Recreation, certainly an interning in my office and understanding some of the underpinnings of how things truly do work. But I just wanted to point that out, so thank you for time. I want to thank my wife, Connie, you are my rock. You're the person who keeps me going when I'm putting in miles and miles and miles. I think I've estimated about 140 one-way miles of going door to door in the city. I ain't done yet. Got a long ways to go. For me, I think tonight you got to see a real contrast between strong leadership through community building as opposed to tearing things down. It's so easy to take a hammer and destroy just about anything. What's difficult is having alliances and partnerships that build things up. And that's what every community needs to do, is to learn, make shifts, and build the community. Hopefully you'll vote for me on November 5th. We're early voting, which is going on right now. You go down and vote for me to return as mayor of the city of Athens for another 4 years, maybe 4 years.
All right, this concludes our mayoral candidate debate, and I want to thank everyone for participation. I want to thank everyone for being here in the audience. And we'll take a 15-minute break. break, and then we will begin the at-large city council candidate debate shortly thereafter. Okay? Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.